wanted to read this one to you. And it said, "You're the first person who made me feel like I don't have to fix myself to be loved. And I don't know how to thank you for that." And there are certain people in our lives that just like, obviously, there can only be one first, but at the same time,
Mhm.
like, there are people that in your life where you're just like, I can be 100% me in front of this person and not feel less than.
Mhm.
Like they're going to love me through it anyway. And it's not even what I should reword that a little bit. They're going to love you no matter what. And it's not because they're accepting this as something's wrong with you. It's just part of you. There's nothing broken in their mind. This is like, they wouldn't even be, they might not even point something out. Like they wouldn't be like, oh, this is one of your quirks or this is one of your weaknesses. Like what you think isn't necessarily something that that person who sees you holding completely would uh identify. And I was like,
Yeah.
it hit me so hard because I was just like, how many people in our lives do we feel like we do have to fix ourselves? Like we've adjusted so much, especially as a like a chameleon personality. Like Marissa says this a lot. That she can kind of come into a room and based on the room, the energy and the personalities, she can adjust. She's flexible. But how do you do that without like saying, you know what? Like I don't necessarily need to be loved in this room. I just, this is the goal of the room.
Yeah. It's so interesting because reality is, well, I don't know about reality, but oh gosh, there's so much I want to talk about this topic. But I mean, I have two first initial thoughts. My first initial thought, which I actually didn't have until you started talking and until you like read the quote live, which is funny because I already like saw the quote hours ago and been thinking about it, whatever, is the first thought was, I want people to not need that quote. Like, I want you
Mhm.
to be the person that loves yourself so much that that quote is like insignificant, is like, was my first thought, which we can totally talk about. And then my second thought was, oh, hold on. I lost my second thought. You're talking about
I did that the other day. That was so funny. When I mean other day,
chameleons,
like 2 weeks ago.
uh, chameleons and changing and being in the room. Oh, my second thought was that quote is so powerful. This is like I need to figure out like a slogan or a thing for it, but this is like basically the other side of my mouth, right? Like devil, like I don't like devil's advocate because to me it's insinuating it's going to be negative on purpose, but that's not how my brain is. Like my brain just sees both possibilities. So my second thought is we have this feeling of, oh, these people I'm safe to be my actual self with. But the question I would want to ask is that because you've only actually shown yourself to those three people? Like,
Mhm.
have you actually shown yourself everything to these other people that you've written off as like, they don't love me for who I am? So just something else to think about, because the reality is, I think we know, right? Like we have intuition, we have whatever of which people are safer to be whatever with. More, maybe it's more eccentric, maybe it's louder, maybe it's quirkier, maybe it's more inappropriate, maybe it's smarter. Like we have a vibe of, oh, this person, I totally can cuss around this person I watch my mouth more, right? Like
Mhm.
that's normal, that's human life, that's human nature. But I think it's just also important to keep into perspective of when we make a judgment about somebody, like let's use the cussing, for example. Oh, this person I can totally cuss around. Oh, I have a really good example of this, of my therapist. Okay. So my therapist is not a cusser. My therapist actually, first of all, his name's Tony Overbay. Anybody who has the opportunity to work with him should work with him. But he is not a cusser. And he actually cussed in front of me last week. And he was like, you want to hear me say like, you want to hear me say a swear word? And I was like, yes, Anyway, so he's not a cusser. I know that about him. I honor that about him. Don't think any different of him about that, right? However, probably because it's therapy, I would assume, even knowing that about him, I am not filtering myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dropping the F-bombs. I am talking how I like to talk, even though I know it might make him uncomfortable. It might whatever, but like, that's not my responsibility if he feels uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So anyway, just that second thought was, when we think to ourselves, oh, I can't do this around this person, I would just invite people to then ask themselves, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because they have actually made me feel or have said something, or is it because I'm assuming? Like, have they said, oh, I don't enjoy cussing, I don't like cussing, I don't understand why people cuss, or cussing makes me uncomfortable? Or like, have they said anything? Or am I assuming, oh, because they are in a high demand religion, because they are extremely liberal, because they are extremely Republican, like whatever the label is that we have given them, because we give everybody labels. And I hate people who say like, oh, I don't judge. You're a fucking liar.
Yeah.
It's part of our like inherent brain, right? It just happens. We want to stick people in box. Our brain is like, this person belongs in this box. This person, think of all the toys we did as a kid of like round goes in round and square goes in square. Like, that's just our brains. So is it because this person has actually identified that they don't enjoy cussing, swearing, profanity, etc.? And so I'm doing it out. They have basically made a boundary. I don't enjoy that. And so I'm honoring that boundary. Or is it because I'm assuming that they don't, that they won't like me if I cuss? Anyway, that was a very long thing, but that was just something I was thinking about, because I immediately go to list off the few people, right, on like one hand of like, I feel that way about the quote. And then the thought is like, yeah, but have you really given other people the same chance you've given them?
Yeah.
Anyway, just random thoughts.
No,
And for the record, I don't think you have to give everybody a chance. Let me just say that. And then I'll stop talking. Like, I don't want people watching the replay, coming back or whatever, or hi, good morning, Krista, feeling like, oh, well, Marissa says I have to give everyone like the same chance, and I have to open up the same to everybody. First of all, no. I need you to just like trust yourself. Okay, please trust yourself of who you feel like you can open up to and whatnot. But also just be aware of that maybe you're not opening up to people. And why is that? Okay, then go ahead.
No, I think that's a good point, because even as you were talking about that, a couple of thoughts came to my mind of like, how many times is it more my assumption? Is it majority of the times it's my assumption versus like experience, like I've actually experienced them or they've set boundaries? And if I were being really honest with myself, I'm gonna go with majority of the time it's my impression, like my assumption.
Same.
And I know this is like out of nowhere, but even like Damon had posted something the other day, and it caught me off guard too.
What was
Because
it?
it was like, listen with your something, not with your triggers.
Oh, you're gonna have to find that, because that's
I'm gonna have to find it, because I actually was like, ooh, like I like interacting with people based on my triggers before I'm actually interacting person to person. Let me go find it. You
go find it. And while you find it, I went out to lunch with my mom and brother yesterday to celebrate the whole contract thing. And something that we were talking about, this is like such a perfect example of when I left high demand religion, cult, whatever you want to call it, or high demand organized religion. And then I went to like the woo, right? Which is just the word that I call it. And there's the opposite sides of the pendulum. You have organized religion, you have organized woo, is what I call it. So like both ends.
Yeah.
And then I like fell back down into what my definition is just spirituality, right? Like where I'm at, what I believe, etc. But it's so interesting and so funny. And I was telling my brother and my mom about this yesterday of so many more people are woo than I thought, because my assumption of it was like, that was so out there, that was so weird, whatever. And then because I then changed my RAS system, right? Because I changed the way that my brain filters and sees information, like now I'm realizing way more people. Like I feel like I could have a conversation with basically anybody and come to common grounds of something that they do that's woo, right? Meditation, breath work, believing that you're going to have a good day, believing that good things are coming to you. Like that is, I understand that in high demand religion, that could be called one thing, but in woo, like that's woo. And so kind of what you're saying of just of is so interesting when you start seeing things how it like actually is as opposed to what you have like labeled.
Mm-hmm. So I found a post. Are you listening with your ears or your triggers? And the immediate, like the question, like I stopped and had to read the rest. But how many unhealed people don't listen with their ears? They listen with their triggers. How many times have you held yourself back because of something someone said to you years ago? And I mean, that is so true though. Like I was like, how many times have I made how many times have I made a decision, like a big decision based on a trigger versus really listening to the opportunity? Um, and also like I like, do I need to be fully healed? Like I feel like there's some things it's never 100% healing, but I can make a decision in the moment and just be like, okay, am I listening with with a trigger or my ears?
Mm-hmm. That's really big. Good morning, Trina. A new word saying in our household is that factor feelings. And that's something that I just have, I don't know where it came from. I just started saying it to Evie one day. And to me, it's just, I mean, obviously it's directed towards a child to be able to identify, like, is that a fact or is that a feeling?
Mm-hmm.
But as adults, like that's the same thing you're saying of like when you hear something and the way you interpret it, it's like, okay, was that a fact or a feeling? Because you either are listening with your ears, which your ears don't, facts don't have emotions. It's just facts.
Mm-hmm.
Facts are that I am overweight. There's no emotions with that. There's no whatever. Facts are I should focus on losing weight to make systems and things on my body be able to work easier and have less of a hard time and whatever. That's just a fact. Now, if somebody says that to me, if somebody were coming to me and be like, you're fat, then yeah, I'm not going to be hearing that with my ears. But the reality is like, that is just a fact.
So another reel I saw yesterday to just carry this through is this. She's like, one sentence to totally destroy a horoscope sign. And I memorized yours and mine because I thought they were really hilarious. So yours was, that opinion you have is not fact. And I was like, how many times have I heard so, like, I'm not sure. Like, is it fact? Like, is it just me? Like, if that's my interpretation of what you saying, is it just me? And then mine, she said, was, I didn't ask for your help. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think she's like, no one asked for your help, so why are you so worried about it? Like, there's a whole sentence to it, and I was just like, okay.
So, man, it's just so interesting. And I think all like this whole conversation goes back to the thought or feeling or belief that I have and that I want for people is for them to love themselves so much, they don't need other people's love. I'm not saying we don't want it. I'm not saying that it's not nice and enjoyable and makes our lives better, right? Like Christine's love for me makes my life better, but I would like everybody. I'd like to be in a place where I don't have to have it in order to be complete or my own self or believe in myself or whatever. And I know that's so much work and it's a work in progress, but I do think that it takes active work to work on. I'm sure there's a way better way to say that, as opposed to I believe there's so much fast, instant, oh, you can just love yourself, believe in yourself vibes out there. And maybe it's just my own personal trauma and issues and, specialness. But for me, it has been years and years of active hard work of building that love for myself and talking kind to myself. And when I make a mistake or, whatever. And I just think it's hard work. And a lot of people don't love hard work.
Yeah. And I agree. And we are guilty of it too. Like there's times where like we struggle with avoidance sometimes. So it's not like we're saying that's not us. We understand it because it's true. That is us. Yes. Tarina says that has been how I feel from triggers from the past. My daughter tells me I'm fat all the time. She has no filter to think before she talks. It's not Elliot's my very vain 14-year-old. And I mean, yeah, kids have, in general, kids don't have a filter, but I mean, I know that too. Like I look at, you ever look at Evie? Like, and for me, like, we're just talking about it with Haley. Like, this is the result of having completeness at home. And you're like, holy cow. Like, how is it? Like, in high school, I brought my mom so much heartache, gray hairs, all the things. Like I would leave the house, not come back, not answer back then a pager. And like she reluctantly got the pager because, at that time only drug dealers had pagers. But like it was one way for her to just be able to track me down. Yeah. But I would never answer it. And I'm like, here I am. I have all these tools and resources like Life 360. I can see where she's at, how fast she's driving. There's so many ways I can find her, right? Like that had those tools been around back then, man, I would have been in so much trouble. But like Haley is grounded. Like she is like she loves, and it's not like,
she's not in trouble, you guys. She means grounded, like,
oh yes,
in herself, like safe for herself. My first thought was what? And then I was like, oh wait, never mind. That's not what she...
And I'm like, that's what that looks like. But to cut like from something you said earlier, I had to go through the things that I needed to go through to want the things that I have, the relationship that Robert and I have, and the parenting relationship we have. Like I needed to go through all those challenges and hard stuff to become this, to help raise children that don't have the same issues. They'll create their own issues, guaranteed. But like, so even if we do have those experiences and those triggers, are we using those triggers to help shape us into stronger, you know what I mean? So that instead of them being anchors that prevent us from moving on or doing something.
Yeah. When people used to like make the statements like, oh, I'm so grateful for my triggers, or, oh, my triggers teach me so much, or whatever. I used to kind of think that was like dumb and stupid until I got more until I like evolved more in where I'm currently at and like my belief system and all that sort of stuff. And then I realized what people meant by that. And now I can say, I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but usually it always comes back around to me feeling that same way, because the reality is when someone triggers you, it is, if you can look at it like a gift, it will change your whole life. Because when someone triggers you, it's an opportunity for you to heal something inside of yourself. Like when that person, you know, even when somebody like cuts you off, or somebody doesn't hold the door for you, or someone's rude to you in the grocery store, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a personal family friend or whatever, someone in your family. It can just be any experience. It can be you scrolling through reels and you watch something and you get triggered by it. That's still an opportunity for you to like heal a part of yourself that is there. And it might be a part of yourself that you never even would have realized without that triggering moment and opportunity. Yeah. So I think that's a really cool way to look at triggers, instead of looking at them as, oh, I'm not healed, or like, oh, I thought I had dealt with that, or I can't believe that's still bothering me. Or make me so angry, or why when my kid does this, like I have an example of this, like it just makes me so angry, so stupid. Instead of looking at it from that perspective, looking at it as like, you know, oh, I have more work to do, or, oh, there must be another, you know, how you always talk about onions. There must be another layer to the onion. And here's a great example of that for me recently is this is just so embedded in a part of me. And if you believe in astrology or human design or anything like that, I literally have the check mark for every single one for like hating to repeat myself, hating to feel misunderstood, and hating feeling like I'm not being listened to. Super triggering to me, super activating. Also, if you don't like the word trigger, my mom's therapist and a therapist that I saw for like a year, she uses the word activated. So some people really like that word better. So instead of the word trigger, they just say I'm feeling really activated right now. But when I feel like I've like explained something to my kids and then they like ask me again, rage. And logically, trust me, I understand that is so stupid. I'm a grown ass adult and this is a child. Like they're asking for clarification. And I had this whole epiphany moment. Was it this week? It might've been, it was either Friday or Monday. I don't know. One of the beginning or end of last week or beginning of this week, this whole epiphany moment of like, oh my gosh, it was Monday. So Ethan was going to his friend's house after school. They took him to a basketball game. Anyway, it was like a whole thing. I had gone over the schedule with him multiple times, right? Like Friday, we went over it in depth because the choice was, do you want to go with them home from school or do you want to come home with us and then I'll drop you off later? Ethan is a very big homebody. So like he chose to come home and then he wanted to go so bad. But when I explained to him, hey, the basketball game starts at 7 p.m. We get home from school at 3:10. Would you, they're leaving at 6. Would you like to be at their house with them from 3 to like 11 p.m. or like 5 to 11? Mm-hmm. So I explained to him so much. Friday, we talked about it again on Saturday. Sunday, went over it with him again. And then these were all me going over it with him. Okay. And then Monday morning, he asked me and I told him, and I was not triggered. And this was a very weird situation for me because normally I would be like, I've already told you, not to him, just in my head, you guys. Okay? Yeah. And I wasn't. And so, whatever, took them to school. Kevin was at the dentist and I'm so fixated on it because I don't understand why. Like, why was I not triggered? And then I realized, so in human design, my, what I'm here to do on this earth is to inform, is basically to sum it up in one word. And if I am not informing people, then I am frustrated and angry. That's like the direct thing. If I'm not living within authenticity with myself, I'm frustrated and angry. And I had this full circle moment because I had another experience with Logan just the day prior where I had said something to him once. Then he asked me a question about it, angry. And I had this full circle moment of like, oh my gosh, it's because I'm not informing enough. So with Ethan, I had informed him so much that I was like good. I was like at peace with myself. So when he asked, there was no frustration or anger because it was like I had already lived how I was supposed to live. But with Logan, I had not informed him enough. And so then when he asked, basically it triggered the actual trigger was I had not explained it enough. I had not made him feel safe enough. I had not given him enough information. So when he asked me, I like subconsciously knew I did not try enough. And so anyway, it was this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, for Dylan will be 17 in May, y'all. Okay. This
So
whole thing of
Go
I
ahead.
like anytime, because it doesn't happen all the time, it does happen probably 80% of the time, that I feel angry when someone has asked me something that I've already said, it's actually my own fault because I am not explaining or telling myself enough to somebody.
So that's not the frustration isn't with the person who asked the question. The frustration is actually within you, but it what is the word I'm looking for? It
Manifest
comes out, it manifests
Mhm.
into the frustration towards the other person, even though it's not.
Yeah. And I never knew that until literally Monday morning. And I was like, HFS. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, oh my gosh, because for my whole life, I mean, this happens with my mom on a regular basis, you guys, of where I have told my mom something off the cuff. It probably was a half story because that's so classic of me to like send a voice message and like be Christine knows, like a half thought, right? Of just like blah, blah. And then like, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't even say the first part of it.
Yeah.
But like I have said something to my mom and then weeks or months later, she'll like ask a clarifying question or she'll ask something and I'll be like, I already told you. And my mom will be like, I know, like, I'm so sorry, but I just like, I didn't remember. And I literally feel so irritated and angry. And so to have this whole moment of like, it's me. It's me. But here's the extra full circle moment. The reason why I don't inform like I should be is because I feel like it's annoying or I feel like it's irritating or like, oh, if I'm, you know, tell Christine something more than one time, she's going to think that I think that she's stupid because I'm telling her again. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's all of this other stuff when in reality, like I have so much proof of like what feels better. Like, for example, if I tell Christine, well, Christine's a bad example because she's very good at retaining information. But if I were to tell somebody one time, oh, I have an appointment, so on this day, so like I can't make it or something. And then another reminder, like, hey, just reminding you, I have an appointment on Tuesday, so like not gonna make it. As opposed to just saying it one time and then obviously, you guys, obviously I'm subconsciously like worrying or thinking about it because then if they come back and say, hey, I thought we were meeting today and I'm so activated and so triggered and like that's less rage, that's more like panicky of like, I mean, I told them, but like clearly I didn't do it right or you know, because when in reality, if I just informed more, then I wouldn't have, I mean, not say I wouldn't have, but I would have much, much, much less of these unpleasant feelings.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so funny. Like the way you describe it, I can immediately identify something. Real quick. It shows this is when did you ladies start? We started later than normal. Because I have a standing call on Wednesdays this year until Wreath Makers Live is done. And so that kind of interrupts our normal schedule, but we didn't want to miss it either. So you are, by when you commented, you're halfway in essentially. But there is, you're talking about how your mom's like, I know, I'm sorry, but you know, like I couldn't remember. When I have those same moments with my mom, I'm just like, a lot of guilt comes in, and just like, and my sister does this too. When my sister comes out, and I think I've said this before, now that I'm saying this out loud, she's like, hey, can we go to this mall? And I'm like, is there anywhere else where you want to go while we're out? Like, I mentally have to plan this route. And like, if it's not on the way, then I'm going to tell you, let's pick another day. Like, I'm not going to drive this area of town and then this area of town. Like, I don't do that. Um, and, and 9 times out of 10 on the way back, she'll see something and she'll be like, oh, let's stop there. And I immediately like get irritated. It's like, I asked you before we left. And that has always been me. And she's like, and as we got older, it has been like, I'm so sorry, but like there's a or there's a Trader Joe's right there. I didn't realize there was one there. Can we stop there? And it's very like walking on eggshells for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel bad that they walk on eggshells, but at the same time, I'm like in my activation and I'm just like, I don't know, like, I gotta figure that out. Like,
so what I recommend, and this is what, because Kevin is you, right? And also Dylan is you. So both, if I say, hey, we're going to Costco and we're getting gas, and then I also end up wanting to stop on Trader Joe's on the way home, they are both like pissed, and they have gotten a lot better about it over the last, I would say, actually like year or maybe 2 years. But I feel like I've also gotten better of, especially with the kids, of what I will do is, and this is something you could tell your sister, of I will say like, we are for sure going to 2 places, but depending on what is at those 2 places, I might also need to stop at a 3rd or 4th place.
mm-hmm.
And so then that mentally prepares them. So if I know it's backwards because it's your sister doing it to you, but if you even asked her like, hey, what do you want to do while you're here? And if she says, oh, I want to go here, then maybe you say, do you only want to do that for sure? Or do you want to look while we're going and see if there's anything else that you want to stop by? Because if she tells you, oh, I want to see if there's anything else while we're on our way there, maybe, I'm not guaranteeing you,
yeah,
but that'll help your brain of being mentally prepared of like, we are going to Costco, but
you might stop.
And she might want to stop here. She might want to stop there. And it's like more preparation as opposed to we are going to Costco and coming home. That might help you.
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, like to be more collaborative, to compromise
Mm-hmm.
is like, I just thought about it when you were saying that. It's just like, hey, I know where you said you want to go here. Do you want to take a look in the area on Google Maps to see if there's anything else in the area you want to stop at? Just because, like, if she knows she wants to go to a Trader Joe's, like there's certain stores she knows she wants to go to. And if I did it that way, I feel like it'd go both ways. Like we're sharing the responsibility 50-50.
Yeah. That might also still be hard for your brain. If your brain is like Kevin's, that would still be hard because if I looked at the map and I was like, no, you know what I mean?
That's true. I would hold at a higher standard now. I was like, but you looked at the map.
Yes. So
you said no.
Just, just a little food for thought of, I know Kevin would still be definitely triggered if he would be. And in my opinion, this has not happened. And I'm totally assuming on Kevin's behalf right now. But in my opinion, for Dylan, I could basically say he would be more triggered because he would be like, you looked and you said there was nothing. Like, and I would be like, I know, but I didn't know that there was a whatever. And I need light bulbs. Like, I didn't know we were going to drive right past a whatever. And I just remembered I need light bulbs. Like Dylan would be like, no, you looked and you said, like, he would be more. So you know yourself best, but just FYI, that could be beneficial. But then I also would definitely ask her, like, so is there any chance you're going to see anything else on the way and want to stop? It's so crazy how powerful words and our brains are, because like, is Dylan and Kevin happy if I go to Costco, get gas, and then I decide I want to go to Trader Joe's? Like, or would they be more happy just going home? They'd be more happy just going home.
Mhm.
But when I set it up as the bare minimum, we are going 3 places, but maybe we will only go to 2, but probably 3, and then we end up going to 3, that's better than like setting it up the opposite way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Hello, Shantae.
Life. And then I did want to say one thing too, Trina, about the 14-year-old thing of, obviously every kid is different and every family is different and how everybody parents is different. But I believe that it's okay to, like, my kids, when they're little, right? When they're little, the word fat is just a descriptive word. We use it all the time. Look how fat that strawberry is. Look how fat this watermelon is. Like, we use the word fat as a society to describe things. So when a little child says it, like, oh, mom, you have such a fat tummy, or you have such a fat booty, like, that's because they're just describing what they see. I do believe that then there comes an age, and this is just my parenting for my family, of when they get older, like I would say for sure by like 5-ish, then I start switching and transitioning my sort of language of, like, we don't comment on people's bodies, like, period. Like, regardless of what you think, whatever. Like, and it's hard because it's hard to teach how we don't comment on people's bodies, but then also compliments. But I have chosen to parent as, like, we don't compliment people's, like, we don't make comments on people's bodies. So, like, I'm not going to tell someone, it's hard for me. There's a few select people from this, because if I know they're actively working on something and they would like a compliment about said thing, then that's like a separate thing. But a generality, if I have not seen someone in a while and they have lost a lot of weight, I am not saying, oh my gosh, you look so good. Because, and this is my own belief, feel free to disagree with me, you guys, but my belief is, as a society, we put more weight on certain standards of beauty, certain standards of body size, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have not seen someone in a while and your first comment to them is like, oh my gosh, you look amazing, like, what have you done? Yes, it's a compliment. Yes, that person might be like, oh my gosh, I've been working so hard, this person notices. And that is a subconscious languaging that they are better now because of how they look than they were before. And so that is something that I have worked and processed with a lot over the last few years. Like, I love when people tell me, like, if I have lost weight and, like, whatever, people acknowledge it. But also I know that there are a ton of people who hate that. Or there's a ton of people who have lost weight because they're sick, or they're stressed out, or their home life is horrible, or their marriage is horrible, or whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. What are you doing? And the reality is their mom is super sick and they're taking care of their mom. That's why they lost weight. Or their child is going through a really hard time and it's hard for them to eat. That's why, you know what I mean? Like, we just don't know. And so that's how I describe it and explain it to my kids of that. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. How about we have time for one more place that's not in our schedule?
No, because in my brain, so
absolutely not.
No. When you have told me, like, we are going here, that is the schedule. But if she tells me, like, we're gonna stop at a couple more places, probably this and that, then I'll be like, look for the closest one. You know, and then we'll go from there. Then I can mentally map out that schedule. If we're already done and wrapped up with the mall, and my brain is like, oh, I'm going home now. I'm getting on baseline. I'm going home. And she's like, oh, look. I'm like, bitch.
Oh, it's so funny because same thing for my family. Like that's like we have time for one more place. Like my family has already been watching and checking their clocks like the whole time we're in Costco. And when we hit like the cold section, they know that we have like less than 10 minutes to work
Like
on.
once there's a pattern, and
Yes,
once we hit,
once we hit this, these whole aisles, like we're grabbing bread, we're maybe grabbing either pancake mix or peanut butter. Like it's very few things, and we only go down like 2 of these aisles. So it from butter to checkout, it's less than 10 minutes. So my family has already been like, "Oh, we done."
mm-hmm.
So not that we have more time for it. They're like, "We finished ahead of schedule."
Yeah, I did. Oh
We're
my
going
gosh,
early.
yeah. Girl,
There
I
is
had a
no, we still
schedule.
have time. The time is done.
Yeah. No, you got done early.
Yes.
Like you didn't like the days where she's like, I didn't find anything, and I'm like, shucks, let's go home now.
I know. You're like, oh, I'm so sad. Oh, it's so true. And it's so interesting. But kind of bringing it back to our beginning thing of, people loving you and seeing you as you are, so that you don't have like, this about yourself. She
Mm-hmm.
knows this about you because, like you said, you feel like that she's maybe speaking a little bit on eggshells. So she knows this
Yeah.
about you, and she's still asking to stop. So that
True.
shows like she sees you, she loves you. Like she's like, I know that this is about to like make her eye twitch. However, Trader Joe's, like, I'm just gonna ask very nicely. So I think that goes to just be such a great example of not to be afraid. I don't know why I'm doing this motion. This is like, I guess you guys are in alignment in my head. I'm not sure what this is, but basically, even if you are worried that something that you want is going to be something that somebody else doesn't want to hear, loving yourself enough and knowing like that person should love you enough that you still speak it. So like her sister, Christine's sister, is confident enough in Christine's love for her that she's going to speak what she wants,
mm-hmm.
regardless of, I mean, she can speak it nicely. She's not like, pull over now. Like,
I know.
But I just think that's such a great example of also honoring yourself, because the first time that Christine was like, oh, I'm speaking for her, but oh, like, do you really want to stop there? Her sister could have decided, I'm never asking for anything else again.
Yes, this is true.
And she would have been self-abandoning all of these years because she saw that and she really wanted to go. And instead she's like, I'll just ask to go another day. Like she is stuffing and shrinking herself because of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's like it sounds so corny, but like so beautiful that you guys like have that relationship of she's not self-abandoning, mm-hmm. and neither are you. Like you're not like, sure, no problem, I wanted to go there anyway, right? Because then you could be self-abandoning as opposed to Christine being like, fine. For example, she's letting her emotions show. She's whatever, honoring herself. Like it's just such a great relationship.
It is, isn't it? But I put the link to the video or the reel that really stopped me the other day in the description of the video. But let me just reiterate it real quick. Where did I put it?
Yeah, for the people who are like, what are they even talking about?
Yeah, you're the first person who made me feel like I don't have to fix myself to be loved, and I don't know how to thank you for that. And that just got me. Chrissy says, I taught my kids about karma. LOL. I use someone I know as an example because my kids know her kids. She always called me fat, but I wasn't. She was just stick skinny when we were teenagers. Her karma is her kids. They have always been big kids as adults. They still are. She's on the big side now as well. So I've always told them, you don't make fun or bully or anything like that because karma might get your kids. I don't know if that's mean of me or not, but my kids didn't do the bullying, and they stuck up for, I'm assuming stuck up for themselves.
Oh my gosh. I karma is such an everyday word in our family, and we use it in like a very it's probably considered like passive aggressive, like funny way. So because it happens so immediate that, for example, if Dylan, I don't know, were to like give me attitude about having to wash the dishes right now, even if he's joking, like, oh, I don't know, I have to do it right now. And I know he's not really being serious because he's already actively walking towards the sink. Do you know what I mean? Then he'll like turn on the water, and the way a plate or a fork or a spoon has been hitting will like splash him. And literally Evie will be like, karma. So that's how we use it in our family, like immediate. Or I can envision like us walking into, I think it was Sam's Club, and one of the kids turning around to like tease or whatever one of the other kids, and then trying to turn back around and kind of tripping, not actually like eating it tripping, but just like stumbling while still on their feet. And literally you'll just hear a chorus of like the other three kids like, karma. And so we use it all the time in that sort of way of like, you know, you reap what you sow.
Yeah. I often feel bad because I'm retired and stay at home most of the time, except a couple of trips to Walmart or pharmacy a week. I'm feeling a little better now. That's good. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Don't feel bad. Listen, I like never leave my house except to like pick up kids or to like go grocery shopping. So don't feel bad. If you want to leave the house and you can't, like, that's a totally different conversation. But if you're like, oh, I should be leaving the house more, that's not real. You know what I mean? Like, that's just something that you think that you're supposed to. It's like my whole vibe lately is like nothing is real and you get to pick your own delusion. Oh, I had such a good example yesterday and I don't remember what it was, but it's too long of a story right now. But basically, short version is like, you know, was going through some stuff, like signing a contract, and there was like two stories. And one story was, because I needed extra clarification, it took more time. I had to talk to like my dad, who's an attorney, and read through the contract multiple times, yada, yada, yada. And I delayed the signing of it. That could be like a bad sign. Okay. And then the other story was, because I waited, because I honored my human design and I did not make an emotional choice, I made a neutral choice. And because I was extra careful about XYZ before I signed the contract, and because I waited until March 10th, which in the Chinese, you know, almanac was like a really good day for starting new beginnings and signing a contract, like it was going to bring nothing but like positivity. And so my whole belief is like, you get to choose your crazy. I need to figure out a way to say this, but you get to choose your crazy. So why not choose like the delusion? Like, you get to choose the story you tell yourself of what it's going to be. So why not choose the one that like rainbows are shooting out of a unicorn's butt? Like, why do you choose the story that's like trolls under a bridge? Like, what? Like, you are choosing what you tell yourself.
So was it an auspicious day?
Yes. Okay, stop it. Literally, it was chat, right? So I have all of my astrology, all my human design, all my everything in a chat. And it's funny because the contract was asked to be signed by March 7th, and the day and time had already passed. And so I asked chat, I'm like, okay, is there in the next week, is there a better day to submit this? Like, why was it March 7th, whatever? So it was like, March 7th was, you know, the first auspicious day of all this stuff. Or it used the word auspicious like 9 times. My literal, let me just see what it actually said, because I think to me, it's so funny. I literally said to it, oh gosh, I'm not gonna be able to find it. I literally said, you keep using that word. I don't understand what it means. You keep using the word auspicious over and over again. I don't know what that means or how it affects me. Please explain. That's literally what I said to ChatGPT. And it's like, auspicious means favorable, lucky, indicating good outcome, success, prosperity, smooth progress. Anyway, so it goes on and on about what auspicious means in Chinese astrology and whatever. But it had said it to me like 8 times, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't. So anyway, March 10th was a very auspicious day.
Awesome.
And it was a super good one. And anyway, all this stuff. And
I think at the end of the day, I just like surprising Marissa every now and then because she's just like, oh, she's not into any of that stuff. And I'll be like, is it such and such? And she's like, wait, you know that?
See, that's a total another example of where we assume like we do stuff because of what we think other people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, March 10th was a good one. And I submitted it at 11:55 p.m., which was like the hour of the rat and like, anyway, all of this stuff, which I didn't even know either. I literally was like, is there a better time? It was 11:54. And I'm like, is there a better time between 11:55 and 11:59 that I should submit this? I've never done this at all, by the way, with anything I've ever done. So for those of you who are like, wow, this lady is a psychopath. Also, you're not wrong, but I have never even considered any of this. And there are so many parts of the world where this is completely 100% normal.
And how they rule businesses. Like the entire East will determine their fiscal calendar around the Chinese horoscope.
Yes. And so like that is how they make this. That's how, I shouldn't say that's how they make decisions, but like that is a factor and influences how they make decisions. And I don't even know why I even thought to do this, but I did. And it was just so fascinating. Like it was telling me all about the hour that I was signing and all this stuff. It literally said in there that this is a preferred hour for signing contracts, which I was like, okay. So it's super fascinating. It's so fascinating what you don't know. And it all kind of started because I was curious when it told me over and over again that March 10th was auspicious and I should sign it March 10th and not, I think the next day was March 13th was like an okay day. Mm-hmm. But it, and I was like, okay, well, what was March 7th? And they were like, March 7th, March 7th was better, basically. But March 7th had already passed.
Yeah.
So,
Can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Everybody have a great rest of your week. Yeah. I just go allow yourself to be you. Like,
yes.
We don't have to be everybody's besties. That's not a requirement. I like how you talked about that earlier. There was something I was going to say, but I'll save it for another day. But yeah, we deserve to be in places that we get to be ourselves and not have to fit a mold or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.